You've been trying to change your life for a long time now, maybe months, maybe years, and you're still trying, still pushing, still hoping that this time something will finally be different. You've done the work, you've read the books, watched the videos, listened to the advice, you've made the plans, set the goals, told yourself, this is it. This is the time everything turns around, and then it doesn't, not fully, not the way you imagined, and you're left sitting with that quiet, heavy feeling, that feeling that something is missing. That no matter how much you try, you keep circling back to the same place, same results, same patterns, same version of your life, just with different details. And the worst part isn't the results. The worst part is the confusion, because you're not lazy. You're not stupid. You care deeply about changing, and still, nothing shifts the way it should. So what is actually going on? Here is the truth, and it might be the most important thing you have ever heard. You don't have a discipline problem. You don't have a strategy problem. You don't even have a motivation problem. You have an identity problem, not as an insult, not as a criticism, as a diagnosis, as the one thing that once you truly understand it, unlocks everything else. Because here is what your mind is actually doing. Every single day, without you realizing it, your mind is not trying to give you what you want. Your mind is trying to keep you consistent with who it believes you are. That is its primary function. Not happiness, not success, not growth, consistency. Psychologists call it self-concept consistency, the brain's deep need to match the outside world with the internal picture it holds of you. And that internal picture, your identity, was not built by you consciously. It was built by your experiences, your environment, the words people said to you, the moments that repeated themselves over and over, until your mind turned them into permanent conclusions about who you are. And now, that picture is running silently in the background. Every decision you make, every opportunity you notice or ignore, every relationship you attract or destroy, every result that shows up or disappears is filtered through that picture. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. This is how the human brain actually operates. Think about the people in your life, the ones who always seem to attract good things. Opportunities find them, relationships work for them, money flows toward them more naturally, and you've probably thought, they're lucky, or they had a better start. Or something was given to them that wasn't given to you. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is simpler and far more powerful. Their internal identity, the picture their subconscious holds of them, matches what they're experiencing. They don't question whether they deserve it. They don't feel guilty when good things arrive. They don't unconsciously push away what they want, because who they believe they are is aligned with what's coming to them, and for you, that alignment has been missing. Not because of fate, not because of bad luck, because of an identity that was written before you were old enough to write it yourself. Here is where it gets even deeper. Your subconscious mind does not know the difference between true and false. Read that again. Your subconscious mind does not evaluate truth. It evaluates familiarity. What is familiar feels safe. What is unfamiliar feels dangerous, even if the unfamiliar thing is exactly what you've been asking for. More money, a loving relationship, real confidence, peace that doesn't go away after a few good days. These things can feel wrong to your nervous system, not because you don't want them, but because they don't match the version of you stored in your subconscious. And so, without asking your permission, your system begins to push them away. You self-sabotage the relationship just as it gets real. You find a reason to stop when success gets close. You shrink in the moments that ask you to be bigger, not because you're weak, not because something is wrong with you, because your system is working exactly as it was designed to work, protecting an identity you never consciously chose. This is why trying harder doesn't fix it. This is why motivation fades. This is why discipline alone never creates lasting change, because you were working on the output while the source stayed untouched. Imagine a river. The water moves in one direction. Always. You can redirect one stream, block one path, Force the water somewhere new for a while. But if the source of the river hasn't changed, the water will always find its way back. That is what has been happening in your life. You change one thing. Something else collapses. You fix one area, another one breaks open. You make progress in one direction, and something pulls you back, because the source, your identity, was never touched, and nobody taught you to touch it. That's the painful part. School taught you to work harder. Society taught you to be more disciplined. Everyone around you modeled the same thing. Push on the outside, show up more, do more, be more productive. And you followed that model. You gave it everything. But discipline, applied to the wrong identity, just produces the same results faster. Let that sit. Discipline applied to the wrong identity just produces the same results faster. You can be the most disciplined version of a limited self-concept and still end up exactly where you started, because the effort was real, the intention was real. But the identity running beneath all of it was never aligned with where you were trying to go. So what is identity really? Not your name, not your job title, not your history, not the story other people tell about you. Your identity is the set of beliefs your subconscious holds about what you deserve, about what is possible for you, about what kind of person you fundamentally are, and it was formed early, through experiences you didn't choose, through words spoken to you before you knew how to question them, through repeated moments that your young, developing mind turned into permanent truths. I'm not enough. I have to struggle for everything. Good things don't last for me. People like me don't get to have that. You never decided to believe those things. Nobody sat you down and asked you to accept them. They were installed quietly, repeatedly, through experience after experience, until they became the invisible filter through which you see everything. And the most powerful thing about a filter is that you don't see the filter. You just see the world through it, and you think, that's just how life is. But it isn't how life is, it's how your identity has been shaping life to appear, and here is the part that changes everything. Identity is not fixed, it was built, and anything that was built can be rebuilt. Not by forcing yourself, not by pretending, not by repeating affirmations you don't believe, by doing something far more fundamental, by deciding at the deepest level of your awareness who you are now, not who you're working toward. Not who you'll be when things get better, who you are. Present tense. In this moment. This is where real change begins. Not in your calendar, not in your habits, not in your morning routine, in your being, in the quiet, settled decision about who you are at your core. That decision, made deeply enough, changes everything around it. Automatically, without force, without struggle. Because when the identity shifts, the river changes direction at the source. Before you move forward, there is something I want you to do, not for me, for yourself. You just spent time here, learning about identity, about how the beliefs you carry shape everything around you, and one of the oldest beliefs that keeps people small is this one. What difference does it make, what I do? I'm just one person. My actions don't matter. That belief is exactly what we've been talking about. So here is your first identity shift. Small, quiet, but real. There is someone, right now, who needs to hear what you just heard. Someone stuck in the same loop you've been in. Someone who hasn't found this yet. Subscribe to this channel, not because it helps the numbers. Not for any other reason, except this. Your one action might be the thing that puts this video in front of someone whose life changes because of it. You will never know who that person is. You will never get credit for it. But you'll know. And that quiet knowing that you chose to give without needing anything back is exactly the energy of someone whose identity has already begun to shift. This is how it starts, not with a big dramatic moment, with one small decision that your old self would have scrolled past. So now you understand something most people never will, that the life you've been living wasn't created by your circumstances. It was created by your identity. And that changes the entire question. The question is no longer, how do I get more? How do I do better? How do I fix what's broken on the outside? The question becomes, who am I being? That one shift in the question changes everything about what's possible for you. Because when you chase results without changing identity, you're playing a game you were never meant to win. You're trying to build a new life on the same foundation that created the old one, and it never works. Not permanently. You might win for a moment. Things might improve briefly, but then, slowly, quietly, everything drifts back. Because the foundation never changed. This is the cycle most people live in their entire lives. Progress and collapse, momentum and self-sabotage. 2 steps forward, and something always pulls them back. And they spend years trying to figure out what's wrong with their strategy, when the strategy was never the problem. The identity was always the problem. Now here is where this gets deeply important, because understanding identity isn't enough. Knowing about it isn't enough. You can watch 100 videos about self-concept. You can read every book on the subconscious mind, and still wake up tomorrow feeling exactly the same. Because knowledge about identity is not the same as a shift in identity. And this is where most people get stuck. They consume the information, they feel inspired for a day, maybe 2. And then the old feeling creeps back in. The old patterns reassert themselves, the old identity, quietly, reclaims its throne. Why does this happen? Because your subconscious does not learn through information. It learns through experience, through repetition, through emotional intensity, through the feelings that are attached to a belief, not the logic behind it. You didn't develop your current identity by reading about it. You developed it by living it, by feeling it, over and over again, until it became automatic. And the new identity, the one that matches what you truly want, requires the same process. Not reading about it, living it, feeling it, embodying it, before the evidence shows up. This is the part that feels uncomfortable, because everything in you wants proof first. You want to see the result, before you believe you are the person who deserves it. You want the money in your account, before you feel abundant. You want the relationship to be perfect, before you feel worthy of love. You want the success to arrive, before you carry yourself like someone successful, and that is the exact reversal that keeps the shift from happening. Because reality doesn't work that way. Your external world is not the cause of your internal state. Your internal state is the cause of your external world. Not sometimes, not partially, always. The version of you that has what you want doesn't wait for permission to feel it. They already feel it, already carry it, already move through the world as if it's true, because inside, it already is. That's not delusion. That's how identity actually operates. Think about someone who grew up with deep self-worth. They don't wake up every morning and remind themselves they're valuable. They don't need to. It's not a thought they have, it's something they are. It's in the way they speak, the way they hold themselves, the way they respond when someone disrespects them, the way they walk into a room. They're not performing confidence, they're not faking anything. It's simply who they are, and that's what an identity shift actually means. Not pretending, not forcing positivity, not reciting affirmations in the mirror while feeling hollow inside. It means arriving at a place, deep in your own awareness, where the new version of you stops feeling like something you're reaching for and starts feeling like something you already are. That transition from reaching to being is the shift, and it doesn't happen in a moment of motivation. It doesn't happen when you feel inspired. It happens in the quiet moments, the ordinary ones, when you catch yourself shrinking and choose not to. When the old story starts playing and you simply don't follow it, when the familiar feeling of not enough arises and instead of believing it, you observe it, just observe it, without resistance, without drama, without needing to fight it. Because fighting the old identity gives it power. Resistance keeps it alive. The old identity doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be outgrown. There is a difference, a profound difference. When you fight who you used to be, you're still defined by it. You're still in relationship with it, still giving it your energy, still letting it live at the center of your story. But when you simply become someone new, the old identity doesn't get defeated. It just becomes irrelevant. Like how you don't fight your childhood fears. You don't go to war with the version of you that was afraid of the dark. You just grew past it. It stopped being relevant, and one day you realized it was just gone. That's how identity shift works at its deepest level. Not struggle, not force. Growth. Quiet, steady, certain. And the key ingredient, the thing that makes this growth real instead of imaginary, is this. You have to feel the new identity more than you feel the old one. Not think it. Feel it. Your subconscious doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in feeling, in sensation, in the emotional texture of your inner experience. When a belief is real to your subconscious, it doesn't feel like a thought. It feels like a fact, like gravity, like something so obvious. It doesn't even need to be questioned. Right now, your limitations feel like that. They feel like facts. They feel obvious, natural, just the way things are. But they're not facts. They're feelings that have been repeated so many times, they crystallized into something that feels like truth. And the same process that turned those limitations into felt truth can be used to install a new identity, a new felt truth, not forced, not faked, cultivated slowly, deliberately, with patience, by returning again and again to the feeling of who you are choosing to be. Not who you're trying to become, who you are. Present tense, chosen, decided, felt. Every time you return to that feeling, the neural pathway deepens. Every time you choose the new identity over the old story loses a little more of its grip. This is not overnight, but it is inevitable when you stay consistent with it. Because your brain, the same brain that locked in the old identity through repetition, will lock in the new one the same way. Through repetition, through feeling. Through the consistent inner experience of being someone different, and slowly, the outside world begins to reflect it, not because you forced it, not because you chased it, because you became it. You've arrived at the most important part, not the most complicated part, the most important one, because everything you've understood so far, the identity, the subconscious, the patterns, the felt truth, all of it leads here, to the actual shift. And the shift begins with one thing, a decision, not a plan, not a system, not a new habit or routine, a decision made at a level deeper than your thoughts, deeper than your emotions, at the level of your being. The decision that says, I am no longer available for the old version of myself. Not as a declaration you shout, not as something you post somewhere, as something you feel, quietly, in the deepest part of your awareness. A line drawn, not in anger, not in desperation, in certainty, and certainty is the most powerful state you can operate from. Not excitement, not motivation. Certainty. Motivation rises and falls. Excitement is temporary. But certainty, settled, quiet, unshakable certainty, changes how you move through the world. When you are certain of who you are, you stop looking for permission. You stop waiting for someone to confirm you're worthy. You stop needing the external world to validate what you've already decided internally. And that shift in posture changes everything, because the world responds to certainty. People respond to it. Opportunities align with it. Your own nervous system relaxes into it. When you carry yourself like someone who knows who they are, everything around you begins to reorganize around that knowing. This is not magic. This is psychology. This is how human beings and the systems around them actually respond to identity. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most certain, most grounded, most like yourself. Notice how differently things flowed in those moments, how conversations went better, how opportunities seemed to appear, how you made decisions more cleanly. How people treated you differently without you doing anything differently on the outside. That wasn't coincidence. That was your identity operating at a higher frequency. That was the world responding to who you were being in that moment. And that state is not reserved for special days. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you can choose deliberately, consistently, as a practice. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like in real life, in ordinary moments. Because the identity shift doesn't happen on a mountaintop. It doesn't require a dramatic event. It doesn't need a breakdown before a breakthrough. It happens in small moments, quiet moments, the moments nobody else sees. It happens when you wake up, in the morning, and instead of immediately reaching for your phone, you pause. And you ask yourself, who am I today? Not as a spiritual exercise, as a real question, a grounding question. It happens when someone says something that would have shrunk the old you, and you notice the pull to shrink, and you don't follow it. Not with aggression, not with performance, just stillness. The stillness of someone who knows who they are. It happens when the old story starts playing. The voice that says, you're not ready, not enough, not the kind of person who gets this, and instead of arguing with it or believing it, you simply recognize it. As an old recording, a ghost of the former identity, still playing, but no longer in charge. You don't fight the voice, you don't silence it, you outgrow it. And this is what daily identity work actually means. Not hours of meditation, not perfect morning routines, not forcing yourself to feel something you don't. It means, in each moment, choosing the new version over and over, in small ways, quietly, without needing anyone to notice, because the shift doesn't need an audience. It only needs your consistency. And here is something crucial that most people miss. The new identity will feel uncomfortable at first. It will feel unfamiliar. It will feel like you're pretending, like you're lying to yourself, like it isn't real yet. And that discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. That discomfort is the sign that something is changing. Discomfort is the sensation of growth, of expansion, of your nervous system encountering something new and recalibrating. When a muscle grows, it tears first. When a belief changes, it resists first. The resistance is part of the process, not an obstacle to it. So when the new identity feels foreign, lean in, not with force, with patience, with the quiet understanding. That unfamiliar is not the same as wrong. Unfamiliar simply means you haven't been here before. And that is exactly where you need to be. Now there is one more thing, one final layer, the one that ties everything together, your environment. Identity doesn't shift in isolation. It shifts or stays stuck in relationship to everything around you. The people you spend time with, the conversations you participate in, the content you consume, the spaces you inhabit. All of it is constantly sending signals to your subconscious about who you are. If the people around you consistently treat you like the old version, your nervous system will keep receiving that signal. Keep confirming that identity. Keep reinforcing what you're trying to leave behind. This doesn't mean you abandon everyone. It means you become conscious of the signals your environment is sending, and you start curating them slowly, deliberately. Without drama, you move toward conversations that expand you. You move toward environments that reflect the new version. You begin to spend more time in the feeling of who you're becoming than in the story of who you were. And over time, the new identity stops feeling like something you're building. It starts feeling like something you're remembering, like you were always this person, like this was always who you were, underneath all the layers that were placed on top of you. And in a sense, that's true. The identity shift isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about stripping away everything that was never really you, the beliefs that were given to you, the limitations that were taught to you, the self-concept that was shaped by people who were also operating from their own unexamined identities. Underneath all of that, there is a version of you that is already whole, already enough, already the person your life has been waiting for. The shift is the return, not to something new, to something real. And this is what makes it permanent. Because you're not building something fragile on top of old foundations. You're removing what was false and standing in what was always true. That doesn't collapse. That doesn't need to be maintained with effort, because it's not a performance. It's not a habit. It's not something you do. It's who you are. And when you live from that place, truly live from it, your life doesn't just improve, it transforms. Not because you forced anything, not because you hustled your way to a new outcome, but because the person you became naturally attracts a life that reflects them. The relationship, the work, the peace, the quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. All of it becomes natural, becomes inevitable, because it's simply a reflection of who you are. And you are not who you used to be. That version had a purpose. It carried you here, to this moment, to this understanding. But it was never the final version. It was never the truth of you. It was just the beginning. And this, right here, is where the real story starts. Not with more effort, not with more trying, with a simple, settled, unshakable decision. I know who I am, and nothing, from this point forward, will convince me otherwise.